Okay, so this is a little glitch exhibition from Heroes of the Storm from my own experiences with the game. The first one here is D.Va getting erased. Her mech gets hit by Stitch's hook and dies in out of bounds terrain, which doesn't give the pilot anywhere to come out. So you can see that at the top she isn't dead, but she's also not on the map. I went back into the replay from her point of view, and at this point in the replay her UI just disappeared. As you can see, the core was about dead, so the game didn't last too much longer anyway, but it's pretty unfortunate. These next few are going to be Diablo overpower glitches. The first one is Li Ming getting teleported away, but even though she's out of range, still gets grabbed and killed, which leads to the end of the game. Then a couple ones with Mephisto and his shade. As he's getting shaded back, he gets pulled anyway from long range. And the last one we have Morales hitting Thrall with a grenade, but Diablo still gets the overpower off. Next there are some Phoenix Warp interactions. When Phoenix warps, his position changes instantly before he reappears, and it doesn't cancel things like Variant Charge. So Variant Charges gets ahead of Phoenix. He's there before Phoenix lands, and leads to his death. And similarly, it can happen with Cassia Fend, and there are other abilities that does this too. The next one is kind of interesting. It's an ARAM with two Garrosh players. One of them gets landed with a Slaughtered by Butcher. He gets thrown into the fray, which grants him unstoppable. He's unstoppable in the air, but as soon as he lands, he's re-silenced. Yet he's not pulled back into the tether, so half of it continues and half of it doesn't. It's a weird interaction. Then we just have your standard Hogger. He finds a perfect angle to bounce through a gate and a wall and die. Shouldn't be able to do that, but yeah, I've seen it go out of bounds too. Then there's Brightwing Phase Shift versus Cocoon. It turns out they both win, and Brightwing gets the Phase Shift, but gets Cocooned at the new position. You'd think if the Cocoon lands, they should cancel the Phase Shift, but this one isn't so much a glitch, but it's kind of funny. Butcher charges, but he can't find the pathing around Hogger's trash pile, so he kind of just gets stuck and can't move until the charge finishes. Then it's kind of strange that Tyrael's Ghost can't enter the enemy base. He's not a player, he should be uninteractable and unstoppable, yet he still bounces out. And it's just kind of unfortunate that in this case, it was sort of frame perfect that he bounced out just in time to not hit May, which would have easily killed her. And then here D.Va's mech gets stunned at the same time as she pops her explosion. Being stunned should stop you from being able to get your explosion off, but in this case it doesn't. And it still happens. So it's kind of a frame perfect interaction. Similarly here, Tyrael's Judgment hits Sylvanas. So he's unstoppable until she's stunned, and when she's stunned she can't cast, yet she gets stunned and the cast still goes off, and he gets hit by the mind controller. So just everything sort of happens at the same time. And then we have some interesting Kel'Thuzad chains. You can see here that he's getting quest stacks. He hit the Medivh, then he hit the Lily, but neither one gets pulled. I guess with the Medivh portal he got too far away, but that shouldn't really be an issue. Then Junkrat gets chained to Cho'Gall. Cho gets pulled and stunned, Junkrat does not, and his ult finishes instead of getting interrupted. Then here we have Medivh gets hit, and the chain is going towards the Glacial Spike. But Genji and Medivh both kind of enter the portal near the same time, and Genji blocks the shot, and so they both kind of get pulled from the portals together, which is kind of strange. Not a glitch so much as weird timing. Similarly, the Artanis swap at the same time as the chain. Artanis is unstoppable, he clearly wins. But then again, a little later in the same match, Artanis gets pulled while his swap is in the air. The swap connects, so halfway through Artanis getting pulled, Kel'Thuzad gets pulled to the Artanis, but Artanis does not get swapped as is normal from his own swap because he's already been pulled. So it's kind of a weird, glitchy interaction there. Here we see Kel'Thuzad is holding his chain to the last second on the spike, connects it with the Muradin, however the spike despawns, and so Muradin, even though he gets hit by the chain, doesn't get pulled. Then there's some weird vision thing that happens sometimes. You can see Death and Decay is hitting the minions, so if you're hitting stuff, you tend to be revealed a little bit. But after the Death and Decay ends, there's nothing giving vision of Kel'Thuzad. He's not hitting anything, nothing's hitting him, but the opposing team can still see him for several seconds, leading to Stukov landing a combo and doing a ton of damage. That shouldn't happen. Here we have Durance of Hate going out. It lands a big AoE root area. Greymane charges right through it, and nothing happens to him. He just doesn't get rooted. Not quite sure how that happened. And sometimes it feels bad to be Kira. The grappling hook hits Zeratul, but he teleports away, and that just cancels it somehow. Then he lands a chain on Li Ming, and just as he goes into stunner, she teleports away, and that completely cancels it too. So just all of Kira's abilities just don't happen. Real quick here, if you're watching Mei, she's using her icing to slide in. It goes left, and then it turns completely around and slides around the bottom of the wall. It's supposed to be in a straight line. Why does that pathing happen? I don't get it. And then here, it's really strange. Lucio gives Lunara a high five while she's casting Leaping Strikes. So she goes flying through the air. Lucio doesn't touch her, so he charges at her until he high fives her. But the distance is so far that you can see she doesn't get unstoppable. If you're watching really closely, you can see she doesn't get healed. The high five gets completely cancelled, even though it goes on cooldown. And she, it just skips it. It's weird. And here it's your standard ARAM maps are poorly designed. The line definition of what counts as your core and safety. You can see where the wall is. You can see Nazir was clearly outside that wall, and Li Ming's orb goes right through him. That just shouldn't happen. And this last one is super frustrating. You can see the catapults, they're just derping around behind the Khazra. They can't find a path to the core. And actually it ends up that the team on the right ends up losing this game. And I went back and I did the math. You will see that the core had about 8,000 health left, and the catapults were doing over 532 damage. And so they only needed 8 hits, and they had plenty of time to get those 8 hits in before they're killed, but they just don't, and so the game doesn't end when it should have. So yeah, those are just some of the glitches that happened. There are plenty more, but these are the ones that I have.